It was a job for angry men. Men who had been neglected or abused as boys, and who were good at compartmentalizing their work into the dark recesses of their mind when they came to the end of the day. Our job, my job, was to brutalize men, to drive spikes into their hands and feet, to gamble for their earthly possessions, and then watch them die. And then we would go home and have supper with our wives and kids. Well, it was about 8:30 in the morning when we led Jesus and the others to Calvary that day, and I knew of Jesus. A friend stationed in Galilee told me how he had gone to Jesus and asked him to heal his servant. And Jesus never even touched the servant. He merely spoke a word, and the man was made well. My friend was convinced it was a miracle. My friend told me that Jesus was nothing like the typical would-be messiahs. He wasn't trying to raise up an army to drive us Romans out of the country. No, he taught the people to love their enemies, to pray for those who harassed them, and to turn the other cheek when soldiers like me struck them. I told my friend that we could use a few more like him in Judea. Yet, here he was, being marched to the skull, the place of crucifixion, after having been beaten and bloodied by my men, and believe me, they're good at their job. Yet as I looked at him, naked, the crown of thorns upon his brow, something felt different. For the first time in a long time, I felt a feeling of regret for what we were about to do to him. Yet, this was my job, and he was just a Jew. So I pushed back that strange feeling of compassion from my mind. And I gave the order for them to nail him to the cross. And it was my job to watch him throughout the day, and I couldn't help but overhearing some of what he was saying. He took the abuse hurled at him with dignity and strength. It was as if, with his crown of thorns, he really was king, and we were his rebellious subjects. Yet, far from calling for our destruction, this king pled for our mercy. It was remarkable. I watched as the dark clouds rolled in at noon. It was a strange sight to behold, leaving us with an eerie feeling that lingered for hours. It was as if the heavens themselves were aware of the deeds we were doing. It started to get to me. Then a small earthquake shook the ground, and some people fled in fear, terrified that this might be a sign from God. Something felt dreadfully wrong. And just before he breathed his last, he gathered his strength. He pulled himself up by the nails in his wrists, and he said in a loud voice, "Father, into your hands I commit my spirit." Then he bowed his head and gave up the ghost. It was the most remarkable death I had seen, and I'd seen many. I stood there looking at this man, and I was overwhelmed by a sense of fear. What had we done? I turned my men and I said to them, surely this man was innocent. Surely he was who he said he was, the Son of God. And for the first time in years, I wept.